What will you regret? I'm talking about in your life, on your deathbed. If you're lucky, you'll get a moment, maybe in your 80s, maybe later, where you'll lie back and scan through your life like flipping through pages of a book. Some pages will make you smile. Others will sting. That's the deathbed test. It's the question nobody teaches, but everyone ends up asking. Why didn't I do that one thing? Maybe it's a trip you didn't take, or a business you never started, or a dream you never pursued, a sentence you didn't say to someone who mattered. And the irony? Most of the time, we knew deep down that we wanted to do it. This isn't about being reckless, it's about being awake. So, what's your one thing? Welcome back to Thinking and Being. If you like what you see today, go ahead and hit that like button as well as subscribe so you can keep getting content like this from myself and others. And I plan to be around for a while, so your help here is much appreciated.
Hey everybody, an old man's talking.
So why this particular topic? I wanted to talk about this because most people never ask the question. I was reminded of this because I knew that Jeff Bezos, love him or hate him, who built Amazon, he consistently tells the story that he did not want to grow old, wondering what if he didn't start Amazon, the company? What if he didn't pursue his dream in his life? That's the power of the deathbed test. And lately, I've been thinking about it a lot, not just for me, but for my kids, friends, and hopefully for you. We spend so much time worrying about the little stuff, inboxes, errands, status, other people's opinions. But the real regrets, those come from the things we never even tried. And I'm not alone in this. Philosophers, psychologists, and even economists have been studying what people regret and why. It turns out most of us never ask the big question until it's too late. This episode is about bringing that question forward, gently, not obsessively, so you can act before the clock runs out. So first, let's walk through the definition of what I call the deathbed test. What is it? It's a simple question with massive clarity. Will I regret not doing this as I sit there and think about it on my deathbed? It's not about bucket lists or YOLO. It's about intuitive alignment with your values, the things that matter when the noise fades. When you strip away deadlines, opinions, and fears, what remains? The deathbed test is a personal flashlight, not for every moment, but for the ones that shape your life's story. And it's a compass, not a rule book. This isn't a mandate to make every decision life-altering. You don't need to spiral over whether to switch toothpaste or take up jujitsu. The deathbed test is for the big forks in the road, the ones that tug at you quietly over the years. The test should relieve indecision, not create more of it. Think of it as a compass, not a scoreboard. And it taps the thinking brain as well as the feeling brain. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman divided thinking into two systems: fast and emotional, that's system 1, and then slow and logical, which he called system 2. The deathbed test bridges both. It's slow and reflective, but it also hits emotionally. It's not impulsive like do it now advice, but it's also not cold calculus. It asks, if I zoom out, what actually matters to me? And death isn't the enemy, a wasted life is. Existentialist thinkers like Martin Heidegger didn't see death as something to fear. They saw it as something to live in light of. Knowing we die isn't depressing. It's what gives us urgency and weight to life. The deathbed test isn't about morbidity, it's about awakening. It reminds you that time is the only currency you never get back. And regret is not random. Regret doesn't just come from failure, it comes from omission, the paths you didn't take, the chances you ghosted. Studies in psychology show that people regret inaction far more than failed action. So the deathbed test is a pre-regret filter. It asks, will not doing this haunt me more than failing at it? And it's a filter for noise. In a world of algorithms, obligations, and overthinking, it's easy to forget why we're doing anything. The deathbed test cuts through that. It's not about what your boss wants, what your parents expected, or what your friends admire. It's about your inner alignment. What would you do if no one was watching? The deathbed perspective is also ageless. We often think the deathbed test is something you start doing late in life, once you feel old. But that's a trap. Regret has nothing to do with how many years you've lived. A 25-year-old can have more life regrets than someone twice their age. The deathbed test works best when it's a mindset, not a midlife crisis. It's about clarity, not the candles on your cake. And last, the test is a compass, not a stopwatch. Some people hear deathbed and imagine a ticking clock, which just fuels anxiety and overreaction. That's not the point. Think of it instead as a compass you carry with you, a quiet, steady way to check your direction, not a countdown to the end. This turns it from a fear-based motivator into a tool for intentional living, guiding you towards choices that matter without making you obsess over every single one. I don't know about y'all, but it's hot here. It's just hot. I need to mop my face. It's that time of year. What are you gonna do? Now let's go over why we rarely think this way and tend to settle instead. First, comfort becomes the default. Most people don't actively choose a boring or regret-filled life. It just sort of happens. You build a little comfort, a little routine, and suddenly years go by. The comfort trap feels safe, but it's sneakily anti-aliveness. The deathbed test often doesn't get asked because the current moment isn't painful enough to provoke it. Next, your brain is wired to avoid risk. Here's a cruel trick. Your brain isn't built for happiness. It's built for survival. Neuroscience shows that we're constantly scanning for loss and threat, not opportunity. This leads to risk aversion and status quo bias. Don't change, or it might be worse. But if you never override that thinking, your future self pays the price in regrets. And complacency is economically incentivized. Let's be honest, entire systems that I've discussed many times on this channel so far in my other videos, entire systems want you docile and compliant. Unfulfilling job, just take your PTO and numb out. Crappy insurance, rising prices at the grocery store, shrug it off. We are crucially trained to stay on the hamster wheel, never stepping back to ask, is this how I want to live? Because if too many people ask that, then the system breaks. And long-term thinking is culturally uncommon. Geert Hofstede, who is an expert on world cultures and organizations, has his different cultural dimensions. And Americans are ranked as very low in the category of long-term orientation. That means we favor quick wins over legacy moves. Other cultures prize generational impact and a long-term view, countries like China. We prize same-day shipping. So it's no wonder that most people never ask the deathbed test question. The lens just isn't built in. And death feels too abstract until it doesn't. We tend to think of death like we think of Pluto. It's far away, vaguely important, and it's not my problem today. But then someone gets sick, or a friend dies young, and suddenly everything sharpens. Waiting for tragedy to create clarity is risky. Instead, the deathbed test is your chance to manufacture perspective on purpose. And next, decisions are made in a loop. Here's a system trap. You're overwhelmed, so you avoid decisions, which breeds more regret, which creates more stress, which makes you more overwhelmed. This reinforcing loop keeps people stuck for years. Without interruption, it becomes your operating system. The deathbed test is one way to break the loop, because it zooms out beyond today's noise. Now, here are some tips on how to program the deathbed test into your life. First, ask the big question weekly. Most people wait until a crisis to question their life, but you can build in clarity by treating the deathbed test like a habit. Once a week, ask, what am I avoiding that future me would regret? Write down the first thing that comes to mind. No pressure to act, just build that muscle. That way, when real decisions come up, the perspective is already installed. Next, use it for only pivotal stuff. Here's the catch. You don't want to turn into a neurotic philosopher. Not every choice needs the deathbed lens. Nobody's on their deathbed saying, I should have ordered the soup. Use it for irreversible or identity-shaping decisions. Career moves, relationships, values, dreams that you keep coming back into your mind that you're not doing. This isn't about perfection. It's about precision where it counts. And next, apply it to decisions, not regrets. Most people use the deathbed test in reverse to justify regrets. If I had just becomes the refrain of the disempowered. Instead, flip it forward. Ask, If I don't do this, would I be okay with that when I'm 80? It shifts your posture from mourning the past to sculpting the future. Also, meditate and simulate the end. Do you want to turbocharge your clarity? Try this 60-second thought experiment. Close your eyes, imagine you're 90 and on your last day. Now look at your current life. What do you wish you had done more of? What's missing? This kind of mental rehearsal is used by everyone from Stoics to samurai because it unlocks focus like nothing else. As I often talk about physics, in particular quantum physics, you want to collapse possibility with intention. In quantum physics, observation collapses potential into reality. In life, intention does the same. When you start imagining what your final chapter should feel like, it ripples backward, guiding your present choices. We know from previous videos that what could be known has a lot of power. Thinking with the end in mind isn't morbid. It's engineering your most meaningful possible reality. And replace the loop. Earlier we saw how complacency reinforces itself. But here's a better loop. Have clarity, which gives you courage, which allows you to take action, gives you growth, and that gives you satisfaction, and hence more clarity. It's a regret-resistant feedback loop. The deathbed test isn't a guilt tool, it's an alignment tool. Alignment between your present and your future. It works best when paired with small action, not huge pressure. And finally, choose your anchor moments. Life isn't lived in years, it's lived in moments you can still see when you close your eyes. Instead of filling your calendar with whatever shows up, pick a handful of things each year you know will matter on your deathbed. Certain trips or projects, conversations, or risks. These become anchors holding your life steady against the pool of routine and distraction. When you look back, it won't be the noise you remember, it'll be the anchors you set on purpose. And you can start setting them today. Thanks for watching today. My 3 key takeaways are: the present is the only place regret can be undone. Next, think long, act bold, and regret less. And finally, don't forget, your future self is watching. So, do future regrets weigh on your mind? What do you think? Comment below and tell us. If you like what you saw today, please like and subscribe, as it will help content like this coming your way. And it's my goal to make this content entertaining and funny, enlightening, educational, as well as a bit nostalgic. Stay tuned as we're going to talk about topics ranging from consciousness to physics, philosophy to psychology, as well as all the interactions between that affect your thinking and being. Until then, keep thinking and being, and do not go gentle into that good night.